Thanks for joining us. Bill is off. A first alert update. We now know at what prosecutors say happened inside a home on Western Avenue in Green Bay earlier this month. A 30-year-old man was found dead inside, and 45-year-old Owen Backus is being held on a $1 million cash bond, today officially charged with intentional homicide. Brittany Schmidt lays out the case after reading through the criminal complaint.
On Saturday, December 9th, Owen Backus ran to a neighbor's house to call 911. The neighbor described Backus as being covered in blood and told Green Bay police Backus had someone tied up inside his house on Western Avenue. Inside, police found a 30-year-old man dead in the kitchen. Backus claims self-defense, but prosecutors don't believe it. According to the criminal complaint, Backus told authorities the victim was trying to rearrange his home. When Backus told the victim to stop, he says the victim attacked him in the shower with a wrench. That led to more wrestling and fighting, where Backus eventually got the victim to stop, quote, flailing. In the complaint, prosecutors say Backus clubbed the victim in the head with a glass beer pitcher, bound his legs, wrapped 2 cords tightly around his neck, and put a T-shirt over his head. Police interviewed Backus, but also listened to a series of jail calls Backus made shortly after being arrested. In those calls, Backus was adamant the victim was still breathing when he left the house to call 911. However, police say that account is inconsistent with how they found the victim in the kitchen. And 2 days after the death, Green Bay Police Captain Jeff Brester told Action 2 News they tried to save the victim's life.
We did attempt life-saving measures, including CPR, along with Green Bay Metro Fire Department.
In the complaint, the officers described cutting the cord wrapped around the victim's neck to remove the T-shirt, only to discover another cord wrapped around the middle of the victim's head.
During our investigation, through what we learned, then we decided to make the arrest at that time, based off the information we had.
An autopsy reveals the victim's cause of death as blunt impact to the head and asphyxia. Authorities are withholding his identity due to the wishes of his family. Backus will be back in court in February. In Green Bay, Brittany Schmidt, Action 2 News.